Imagine this. You're barely a teenager, married off to a foreign king you've never met, and before you even understand your body, you're expected to produce an heir. Then another. Then another. You bleed. You break. You lose babies. You bury children. But no one mourns with you, because you're a queen. And your duty is not to feel. It is to breed. For centuries, royal women were not seen as individuals. They were dynastic vessels. Their value measured in sons. Their wombs battlegrounds for power, alliances, and legacy. Most people remember their crowns. Few remember the suffering underneath. This is their story. Mumtaz Mahal was born Arjuman Banu Begum in 1593 to a Persian noble family. At 19, she married Shah Jahan, the future Mughal emperor. Although he had 2 other wives for political alliance, his heart belonged to Mumtaz. She became his shadow, traveling with him even on brutal military campaigns. He called her his soulmate. But this soul, though cherished, paid a heavy price. Mumtaz endured 14 pregnancies. 7 of her children died before adulthood. Among the survivors were Jahanara Begum, a political force in her own right, and Aurangzeb, who would become a ruthless emperor. Her final childbirth was her last. After 30 hours of agony, she bled to death, giving birth to her 14th child, Gohar. Shah Jahan's heartbreak gave rise to the Taj Mahal, a monument of love built on the tomb of a woman killed by the very love that created her legacy. Next comes Queen Charlotte of England, born in 1744, a descendant of African royalty 13 generations removed. She married King George III at 17, and within a year, delivered her first child. Over 21 years, she had 15 children. Queen Charlotte detested pregnancy. In a letter, while carrying her 14th child, she wrote, "I do not believe a prisoner could wish more ardently for liberty than I wish to be delivered from this burden." Her wish was not granted. She endured 1 more pregnancy before finally being free. Despite her trauma, she loved her children fiercely. She protected her daughters from political marriages. Many never married. Some waited till their 40s. She knew too well what awaited them. Sadly, her 2 sons Alfred and Octavius died of smallpox in infancy. Remarkably, the rest survived, a miracle in that era. Charlotte lived to 74, dying surrounded by her children. Her husband, George, slipped into madness. Their son ruled in his place. Eleanor of Castile, Spanish princess and descendant of Eleanor of Aquitaine, married King Edward I of England when she was just 13. He was 15. Edward, the future Hammer of the Scots, was a brutal conqueror, but to Eleanor, he was a faithful husband. She accompanied him on crusades, on war campaigns, on treacherous journeys, while pregnant. She gave birth to 16 children. Most died. Catherine, Joan, Alfonso, Henry, gone. Eleanor was a child herself when her first child died. She kept going. Her body, however, couldn't. She caught malaria in 1290 and died in her husband's arms. Edward was so grief-stricken he built 12 monumental crosses along the path of her funeral procession. The Eleanor crosses still stand as a monument to a woman who bore the weight of a kingdom in her womb. Karen of Armenia, also known as Queen Anna, was the daughter of a Turkish prince. She married King Leo II in the 1260s. In a time of endless war and fragile kingdoms, Karen gave birth to 16 children, including 3 sets of twins, an astronomical feat even by royal standards. Her children were born into a cursed destiny. Her sons Constantine, Hethum II, and Taurus III all ascended to the Armenian throne. All were murdered. Each one, raised with hope, died violently in betrayal. Her youngest sons Ashen and Alan were her last pregnancy, another set of twins. One of whom also rose to rule and was slain. After decades of constant childbirth, assassination, and mourning, Karen finally walked away from the world. She became a nun, entered a monastery, and died quietly in 1285. A queen who bore kings but lived to bury them all. Maria Theresa of Austria, born in 1717, was not just a queen but an empress. At 19, she married Francis Stephen of Lorraine. While she ruled with iron determination, her husband betrayed her with affairs. Still, Maria Theresa bore 16 children in 19 years. She called herself the mother of the empire, and used her surviving children as chess pieces in political marriages across Europe. Her daughter Marie Antoinette would become Queen of France. Another son, Joseph II, became Holy Roman Emperor. Smallpox haunted her family, taking multiple children. Maria Theresa championed the smallpox inoculation, one of the first royals to embrace this medical breakthrough. She created a chastity commission to root out adultery, partly to catch her own unfaithful husband. When Francis died, she wore black for the rest of her life. In her final years, broken by loss and illness, she died of smallpox herself, the same disease she fought to protect her children from. Maria Carolina, daughter of Maria Theresa and sister to Marie Antoinette, inherited her mother's stamina. But not her joy. She married Ferdinand of Naples and Sicily at just 15. She hated him, called him crude and repulsive. Yet she had 17 children. The ghost of smallpox loomed again. Many of her children died young. Only 7 reached adulthood. Like her mother, Maria Carolina ruled behind the scenes. When Napoleon invaded, she fled into exile, heartbroken and paranoid. She died in 1814, never seeing her throne restored. Anne of Great Britain, born in 1665, was destined to become queen, but her personal story is one of the most tragic in royal history. She married Prince George of Denmark and tried to build a family. Over 18 pregnancies, she never saw a child grow up. Miscarriages, stillbirths, early deaths. Her womb became a graveyard. Only one child lived past infancy. Prince William, Duke of Gloucester. He died at age 11. Doctors now suspect Anne had Hughes syndrome, a blood clotting disorder that caused her repeated losses. A modern aspirin might have saved her babies. But in the 1600s, there was no such hope. Anne became queen while drowning in grief. She ached to numb her sorrow and grew chronically ill. History remembers her for uniting England and Scotland into the United Kingdom. Few remember the woman who wrote to God, "Why give me life, and take all I bear from it?" And now, the unmatched record holder, Darajan Dadiani, Queen of Georgia. Born in 1738, she was married off at 12 to 30-year-old Heraclius II. He already had 4 sons by his first wife. Over 30 years, Darajan gave birth to 23 children, a staggering number unmatched in royal history. 13 survived to adulthood. Darajan was politically astute and ambitious. She convinced her husband to change the succession law so that her own sons, not her stepsons, would inherit the throne. After Heraclius died, her stepson George III ignored the will. A brutal family war followed. Her sons allied with Iran. George allied with Russia. When her son Alexander attempted a coup, George had her arrested. In 1801, Russia annexed Georgia. The 1,000-year-old Bagrationi dynasty collapsed. Darajan was exiled to St. Petersburg, where she lived in a rented apartment under surveillance. She died in 1807. A queen who bore a nation, and died a prisoner of empire. These women were not just mothers. They were warriors of the throne, sacrificed in body and spirit to dynasties that rarely valued them beyond their fertility. They were expected to smile through stillbirths, to continue ruling through bleeding, to hand over sons they may never see again. They were seen as saints if they suffered silently, as sinners if they complained. Their identities erased under titles: queen consort, empress, wife of, mother of. But behind every title was a woman who bled, mourned, and endured. Even today, their monuments stand tall. The Taj Mahal, the Eleanor Crosses, the paintings in gilded halls. But their private pain echoes only faintly in footnotes. Imagine the loneliness of miscarrying in a foreign palace. The grief of naming a child only to bury them hours later. The fear of yet another pregnancy when your body is already shattered. For many of these queens, menopause was not feared, it was freedom. The one moment they could breathe without duty pulling them back to bedchambers they had come to dread. These 8 women are symbols of endurance, not just royalty. Their children shaped continents. Their pain fueled legacies. Yet they remain voiceless in most history books, defined only by their husbands and sons. But not anymore. Through this documentary, we remember them. Not just as baby makers. Not just as royal titles. But as women, who carried kingdoms in their wounds, and pain in their hearts. Their lives may have been dictated by crowns. But their courage, that was always their own. You've just witnessed one of the darkest punishments in history. But many more still lurk in the shadows. So if you dare, subscribe to Torture Vault, where every scream from the past still echoes.